Speeding up open chord changes. This video tutorial is aimed mainly towards beginners, but if you're a more experienced guitarist, you might get some useful information out of it anyway. Because this video also includes exercises, you may want to read the ebook that's available at eBooks for Guitar. And if you're an absolute beginner, these would be essential. So here's how you get them. You'd go to the website ebooksforguitar.com, then click on the lessons, then select whether you're right-handed or left-handed. I'll select right-handed here. Then near the top you can see here the chord exercises, so click on that link and there you have it. You can enlarge that to fill the page where you can see the exercises. And by the time you're watching this video should be there as well, underneath the ebook. Whilst we're on the website, it's also worth me pointing something else out. If you go back to months and then click on the chords link, you'll see here a picture of all the chords. However, if you click on one of these, it will take you to the video which explains how to play it. I'm hoping this will be a useful tool for people, as it will save them searching through YouTube or through my YouTube channel. You simply click on the chord you want to learn and there it is, the lessons in front of you. Right, let's get on with these exercises. Each of these exercises has been specifically written to teach you a particular technique that can help you speed up your chord changes. So just go through them all, because there's only 5, and then we'll recap the techniques at the end. Exercise 1. This exercise includes the chords C, A minor and G7. If you can't already play these chords, it's worth going back and learning how to play them. Again, I'll refer you back to the website where you can just click on the chord and you'll get the lesson on how to play it. So, first chord we're going to play is a C major chord. Now, once you've got that chord down and you've played it pretty cleanly, you then want to leave all the fingers in place except the 3rd finger. And you remove the 3rd finger from the 3rd fret of the A string and move it across to the 2nd fret of the G string. So you've not moved the other 2 fingers, only the 3rd finger. And then you can move it back to the C again by removing it from the 2nd fret of the G string and putting it back in the 3rd fret of the A string. Now just repeat this a few times back and forwards between the 2 chords. Once you're pretty comfortable going between the C and the A minor, we'll now try another chord. And this one's a little more difficult. So we go back to the C first of all. But this time we remove the bottom 2 strings, maintaining the pattern, and move them down a string so that they're no longer on the A string and the D string, but they're on the E string and the A string. And we also remove the 1st finger from the B string to the E string. So in effect, we're just exploding the fingers out from the middle, but still maintaining an approximate idea of the shape. Now, this new chord is a G7. This is a little more difficult and will take a little more practice, but just try going between the C and the G7 and the C and the G7. With the 2nd and the 3rd finger, if at all possible, you want to try and maintain the shape. This will help you speed up the chord change. So go between the C and the G7 whilst trying to maintain the shape of the 2nd and the 3rd finger. Once you feel fairly confident with the chord changes you've done, try bringing the whole chord exercise together. Firstly, just try playing it as it is a few times until you feel comfortable with that, and then try playing it with a metronome. You can get a metronome free online or off your mobile phone, and it'll just help you keep time accurately. Even if you think you can keep accurate time, the chances are you won't be able to whilst you're trying to concentrate on the chord changes. So it's well worth downloading one so that you can get used to playing in accurate time. So here's exercise 1 being played at a nice slow 60 beats per minute. Exercise 2. This exercise involves C major, A minor and E minor. The first half of this exercise should be pretty easy by now because it's just going between the C major and the A minor as you did with the previous exercise. However, this time you'll have to go between the A minor and an E minor. Again, you'll notice there is a slight similarity in the pattern in that you remove the first finger and then move the second and the third finger down a string, keeping them together. Therefore, this should simplify the chord changes. So try practicing first going between A minor and E minor, back to A minor and E minor, and so on, until you feel comfortable with the chord change. Once you feel you can do the chord changes reasonably well, you can try playing the entire chord exercise. And then when you feel comfortable with that, you can try playing it with the metronome again. Here's the exercise played at 60 beats per minute. Exercise 3, and this exercise involves playing a C major and an F major. You're probably looking at this exercise and thinking, wow, that's easy. Well, I'm afraid it's not. The F major is probably one of the hardest chords you'll learn when you first start learning the guitar. So this exercise is actually really difficult. However, you'll notice there is a similarity in the way the fingers are laid out between the F and the C major. So if you can maintain the pattern of the second and third fingers and move them up a string, and then roll your first finger across to cover the two strings, you should get the F okay. However, don't worry if you can't play the F straight away. It may take some practice. You will get it eventually if you stick with it. Here's this exercise being played at 60 beats per minute. Exercise 4. And in this exercise we use E minor, A major, D major and G major. This chord exercise really demonstrates that sometimes you can come across chord changes where there's very little in common with the fingering or the shapes of the fingering, and therefore you just have to practice going between the chords regardlessly and try and speed them up. For the first two chords we have an E minor and an A major, and this does have a common factor, and that is the first and the second fingers being close together. If you can maintain that shape, it can help you speed up the chord change. So you play the E minor and then move the first and second finger across by a string and add the third finger to create the A. Now try going between the E minor and the A major and the E minor and the A major. Once you're happy with this chord change, you can move on to try the A major to the D major. Again, there's very little in common with these two chords. However, you'll notice the third finger is on the same string in both chords. Therefore, you may find it easier to slide the third finger up by a fret and then add the other two. This might actually make it harder for some people, but with others they'll make it easier. So work out the best way for you and practice going between the A major and the D major and the A major and the D major until you're comfortable with the chord change. Once you're happy with all the chord changes, you can try putting the entire chord exercise together. Then you can try playing it with the metronome. Here it is being played at 60 beats per minute. Exercise 5. And this exercise has a C major and a G major. With this exercise, we want to demonstrate the fact that sometimes it's a good idea to break the rules. Here, if you play a C major and then play a G major with the conventional fingering, you'll find every finger has to move quite radically across the guitar. Therefore, if you've got a tune that has a lot of rapid changes between these two chords, it becomes very difficult to play. However, if you maintain the shape of the C, i.e. move the second and the third finger down a string, and then use the little finger on the top E string, the amount of movement the fingers have to do is considerably less, and therefore it's a far easier change to do. So, using this fingering, try going between the C major and the G major, back to the C major and the G major. Right, Let's hear and see that exercise done with a metronome at 60 beats per minute. Just as a point of interest, as we've touched on alternative ways of fingering chords, here I've got some examples of using one finger to cover two strings. This is most commonly done on the chords of E major and E minor, and A major and A minor. Now, this technique isn't for everyone, as you need to have a little width in the end of your fingers. However, if you do have a little width in the end of the fingers, you might find this technique quite useful. And I've taught students in the past whose fingers have been very broad and they overlap onto strings they shouldn't be touching. So using one finger across two strings is really helpful if you've got fingers like that. Right, I'll demonstrate how these chords are played. Right, let's do a summary of the tips we've learnt during this tutorial on speeding up chords. The first one is look for pivot fingers. A pivot finger is one or two fingers that stay in place whilst the other fingers move around it in order to move between the chords. We did this between the C major and the A minor, where the first and second finger acted as pivots and the third finger moved around them. This method is also useful if you're trying to learn to play the guitar without looking at the strings, because by having a finger in place, it gives you an idea of the location of the rest of the fingers on the guitar. Tip 2 is to look for patterns that exist between the chords you're moving between. If you find a pattern and you can maintain it, then it will save you a lot of time in the chord changes. However, this technique will take time to practice again, but it's well worth the effort because it will speed up your chord changes. Tip 3. Don't be afraid of changing the recommended fingering if it means you'll get between the chords more quickly. Sometimes it's recommended to change the fingering in order that you get a smooth chord change. Tip 4 is for more advanced players who play broken chords. This is done when you finger pick or you play the bass or the top part of the chord first. When you're breaking a chord up, look at what part of the chord you're playing first and get those fingers into place first. This might take a bit of retraining if you're used to putting the chord down in a particular order. You might have to reverse it in order to get the bass note down, for example, before the rest of the notes. Tip 5 is absolutely for everyone. Practice as much as possible with a metronome, as without a metronome you can never be absolutely sure that your timings are correct. And if in the future you get the chance to play with a band or with someone else, you'll find it a lot harder if you're not used to keeping accurate timing. And finally, tip 6, and I can't say this one enough, keep practicing. If you can't get something straight away, don't worry, and even if you can't get it in a couple of weeks, don't worry. It takes time to learn the guitar. It might take you a couple of months to get the chord changes to the speed you want them, but don't worry, because once you've got them for life. For anyone who might want to practice what you've learnt here today, I'm including here metronome beats at 60, 80 and 100 beats per minute. However, if you've had enough for today, but enjoyed the lesson, please like and subscribe, and then you'll be notified of future lessons.